Have you ever felt like the whole world seemed deaf to who you really were? It's like you're screaming but no one hears you. As if every attempt to show who you are was ignored, stifled, rejected. You start to wonder if there is something wrong with you. Perhaps, it would be better to give up. Maybe you're not good enough. Maybe they are right. This doubt hurts. It corrodes from the inside. A kind of silent shame that doesn't appear in the photos but that weighs on every step. A tiredness that is not physical, it is of the soul. The feeling of being invisible even though you try so hard to be seen. How many times have you asked yourself, why doesn't anyone believe me? How many times have you felt that, no matter what you did, you would remain just another forgotten name, another face that no one notices? Lady Gaga felt it. Before she was Lady Gaga, she was just Stefani. A girl with dreams too big for the small space where she grew up. They said she was weird, that she would never fit in. That his way of dressing, of singing, of being, was too strange, too exaggerated, too different. Too different to fit into any standard. Too different to be accepted. She heard doors slamming in her face. He felt his back turning when he most needed support. It was called a failure, joke, a freak. And for a long time all she had was herself, and the invisible decision that no matter what anyone said she would be heard. With or without applause. With or without permission. It's easy to look at who won and think it was luck. That one day life decided to smile. But what no one sees is the night when the person cries alone on the floor, completely broken, and yet whispers to themselves, I'm not going to stop here. It's that night that changes everything. Not the first song, not the first stage. But the silent decision made in the dark when no one is applauding. And that's where your story connects with hers. If you've ever felt ashamed for being who you are, if you've ever felt too small for the size of your dream, this video is for you. If you ever wanted to disappear until the world was ready to see you, you'll find yourself here. Because today the story is not just about Lady Gaga. It's yours too. Tell me in the comments. Have you ever felt invisible even though you were screaming inside? Write I already if this pain has already crossed you. And listen, stay until the end of this video. Every minute was designed to rekindle that part of you that the world tried to erase. Like now, because this story deserves to be spread. And if you're not already part of our family here, subscribe to the channel. We will no longer let anyone silence who you were born to be. Before her fame, Lady Gaga was just a girl with an old piano and an insistent desire to be heard. She was the last to be called in the test. Sometimes there wasn't even a call. He entered the rooms with his portfolio in his hands and saw the looks of contempt before he even opened his mouth. It wasn't the type they wanted. It wasn't the image they knew how to sell. Very strange. Very noisy. Very different. Polite smiles that hid contempt. Doors that slammed loudly without leaving even a trace of hope. Record companies looked at her and saw a problem, not potential. He heard from suited executives that he would never have a career. That perhaps at most she could write songs for others to sing, but herself? No, I would never be a star. It would never be accepted. Time dragged on like a silent punishment. While other girls who fit the mold got contracts, she moved from bar to bar, sweating in makeshift outfits, carrying her heavy keyboard on her back. He performed to dispersed audiences, full of loud conversations, glasses knocking on the tables, glances lost at cell phones. He sang for those who weren't listening. He played for people who didn't care. Sometimes there wasn't even applause. Just the sound of silence and chairs dragging when someone decided to leave in the middle of the song. She ended the presentation facing empty chairs, cold lights, faces turned to the side. The soul seemed to fade a little every night. Coming home was even worse. The city seemed to laugh at her. Every billboard featuring someone else's success. Every headline printed with faces that belonged to the world of dreams. And she was there, invisible, trying to justify to herself why she still insisted. Why did I still believe in something that seemed so unreal? Shame became a companion. It arrived at dawn when she counted the coins in her pocket and realized that, once again, she would have to choose between paying the rent or eating properly. A piece of stale bread on the plate and an increasingly distant dream in your chest. And no one to say it would work. No outstretched hands. No promises. Some nights she wondered if it was crazy to continue. If I should stop, find a normal job, forget about this idea of music. But even in those moments, even when pride hurt, even when fear seemed bigger than her, something inside wouldn't let her. Something screamed louder than failure. But the world didn't listen. Some friends started to disappear. Others said behind her back that it was time for her to wake up. That no one would take her seriously like that. That she was deluding herself. That dreams like that were for few people, and she was not one of those exceptions. The weight of these words was not light. It was like a wet coat in the middle of winter. A constant reminder that she wasn't enough. I wasn't pretty enough. It wasn't saleable. With every no, every slight, every look of pity, it was as if a part of her died a little. And she felt it. I felt the dream being slowly crushed by reality. Every time he entered an improvised stage in a corner bar. Every time I saw the crossed eyes. Each time, when he finished a performance, he heard the sound of his own breathing more than any applause. The loneliness of the journey weighed heavily. The feeling of being invisible became a physical pain, which hit the chest like a silent punch. She cried in secret. Not because she was weak, but because she was human. Because no one can stand being ignored for so long without breaking down a little inside. And yet, every day she woke up. Still, every day she put on the same old shoes, the same patched-up courage, and went back to face a world that seemed to have no place for her. Even his own thoughts began to change tone. Sometimes they whispered cruelly, "You are not enough. You never will be. Accept it soon." And it was difficult. Very difficult. It wasn't just other people's words. It was the inner voice too. The shame of still believing. The shame of still trying. The fear of being a joke. Of ending up as another sad story that no one would even remember. Meanwhile, the city continued to pulse indifferently. Lady Gaga walked among rushing crowds, invisible. He took crowded subways, crossed gray streets, carried his invisible baggage of defeats and refusals. With each step, doubt grew. With each breath, the feeling of helplessness settled even deeper. She was on the floor. Deeper than a crushed dream can reach. Where the shame is so great that even breathing feels wrong. Where loneliness screams louder than any music. Where the soul bleeds in silence. Where it seems like no one will ever hear your voice. Where all that remains is to decide, accept being invisible, or do the impossible. On one of those days when even her body weighs more than it should, she arrived home after another empty performance. He threw the bag on the floor. I didn't even have the energy to cry. She just stood there, standing still, looking into space. The silence in the room was so thick that it seemed like screaming. He sat on the cold floor, hugging his knees, his face hidden in his hands. She asked herself what she was still trying to prove. For those who were insisting so much. And in the midst of this darkness, a spark, small, almost imperceptible, but real. She understood for the first time that no one was going to come and save her. That no matter how many times she tried to fit in, to please, to smooth out her edges, the world would continue to tell her that she was too much or too little. Never exactly what they wanted. Then there, on the floor, Lady Gaga did something that seemed small but changed everything. She picked up an old notebook sheet that was lying in the corner of the room. On top of it, he designed a pair of giant boots, full of glitter, chains and absurd platforms. She drew white hair, heavy makeup, eyes painted as if they were crying stars. A symbol of what she was inside, a cry for freedom disguised as art. Underneath the drawing, he wrote with a failing pen, "I am that voice. I am that vision. And the world will have to listen." There was no audience. There was no contract. There was no guarantee. Just that sheet, those crookedly drawn boots, and a decision. The invisible decision that she was no longer going to try to fit in. That she was no longer going to cut pieces of herself to be accepted. If the world didn't understand, patience. If they laughed at her, that's their problem. She would live her truth even if no one applauded. Even if it was alone. This choice was not made on a big stage with fireworks. It was done in silence. On the cold floor of a small apartment. No witnesses. No external promises. Just her and the promise she made to herself. After that, something changed. Not in the world, yet, but inside her. The way of walking. The way of singing. The way of dressing. He stopped wondering if he was good enough. He began to ask, is this true for me? Stop waiting for approval to create. He started creating because he needed to. Because it was what his soul was screaming to do. Nobody saw this moment. No cameras filmed. No newspaper reported it. But it was there that Lady Gaga was truly born. Not when he won awards. Not when it filled stadiums. Not when it appeared on television. It was there, on that notebook page, in that silent choice, that she stopped being just another girl trying to be accepted, and became a force that the world could not ignore. If you're here listening to this, maybe you've reached this point too. The point where the world tries to bend you, diminish you, make you doubt who you are. And maybe today is the day to make that invisible choice. To decide that even if no one applauds, even if no one understands, you will not betray who you are. Before moving on to the next chapter of this incredible story, do the following. If this message is moving you, subscribe to the channel now. Here, we believe in invisible decisions that change destinies. Click the button and come build your turnaround with us. The changes started subtly. One presentation here, another there. Still small stages. Still makeshift bars. But something was different. Lady Gaga no longer sang to be accepted. She sang as if the whole world needed to hear it, even if the world didn't know it yet. His energy overflowed. It didn't matter if there were 5 or 50 people watching. She performed as if she were in front of 50,000. I no longer shaped my voice. It didn't soften the presence. Their shows became a spectacle of those who decided to exist in the most complete way possible. She was loud, flamboyant, intense. She was herself, without apologizing. And it was in this raw glow, in this unfiltered authenticity, that the doors that were previously closed began slowly to open. First, it was an audience that didn't look away. Then a producer who saw something that no one else saw. Not because she changed it to fit, but because she decided not to fit anymore. When he released Just Dance, the explosion was immediate. Suddenly, that strange girl that no one wanted to bet on became the voice that rocked dance floors around the world. Poker Face came next, and consolidated what had previously seemed impossible. Lady Gaga was a phenomenon. But more than commercial success, it became a symbol. A cry for freedom for those who have already been told to remain silent. For those who have heard that it was too wrong, too ugly, too exaggerated. The Grammy came. More Grammys came. Oscar came. The Golden Globe came. But what weighed most were not the trophies on the shelf. That's what they represented. Each award was like a scar turned into a medal. Every applause, a silent answer to every no she'd ever heard. When Lady Gaga took the stage to sing Shallow at the Oscars, eyes teary, heart exposed, she wasn't just singing a song. She was singing for all the times they said she couldn't. For all the times they ignored her, humiliated her, tried to erase her. And on that golden stage, under the brightest spotlight in the world, she said in a steady voice, "They laughed at me at first, but they never had the last laugh." That sentence was not arrogance. It was justice. It was the voice of someone who crossed the desert of rejection with their own feet. From someone who remained invisible for a long time and still decided to shine from the inside out. Today, Lady Gaga is more than a singer. It is a living revolution. A reminder that authenticity, when protected and nurtured, becomes unbreakable. That the invisible decision, made on the cold floor of an empty room, can echo on the grandest stages in the world. She inspired millions. Not just for his talent, but for his courage not to give up on his own essence. For the silent faith you maintained when no one else believed. For the commitment to be who we were born to be, no matter what the cost. And if today the world applauds her, it's because one day she applauded herself. In the dark. In the silence. In the invisible. That's why, when you look at your own pains, at your own rejections, remember this. What seems small now can be what transforms everything later. Visible victory is built in the invisible. In the silence of nights when no one sees you. In the yes you give to yourself when the whole world says no. If this story is making something inside you light up, stay with me. There's still more. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do so now. Let's together strengthen this voice that the world still needs to hear. Yours. Now I want to talk to you. No script, no distance, no filter. Just you and the truth that may have been there for a long time, waiting to be heard. How many times have you tried to fit in where you clearly didn't belong? How many times have you swallowed who you were just to be accepted, just to not be singled out as too different, too strange, too ambitious? How many dreams have you hidden because someone looked at you with disdain? How many ideas have you left behind because someone said they were ridiculous, impossible, childish? How many times have you almost believed the problem was you? Lady Gaga's story may seem huge now, full of lights and trophies, but back then it was just a choice. A choice made in silence. No audience. Not sure. No applause. And now I ask, what would you do if no one was watching you? What would you choose to be if you didn't need anyone's approval? Who are you really, when you don't need to fit into molds that were never made for you? Maybe you are there, carrying a pain that the world cannot even imagine. Maybe you're dreaming about something you don't even know if you have the right to dream about. Maybe you're feeling invisible, alone, out of place. What if I told you that this exact feeling of not belonging, could be the beginning of your most extraordinary story? You don't need permission to be who you are. You don't need someone to say, you can now. The scenario doesn't need to be perfect. You just need to decide. In the dark. In the silence. The way the greats did before the world applauded. Your moment doesn't have to be grand to be real. Sometimes it's a sleepless night. Sometimes it's after yet another rejection. Sometimes that's when everyone turns their back. And still, even with everything falling apart, you decide. You choose to continue. Look inside. What have you been ignoring about yourself because you're afraid of what others will say? What have you been suffocating because you believe that you are not enough? What part of you screams to be born and are you afraid to let it out? The truth is that what most people try to erase in you may be exactly what will make you shine. But no one will do it for you. No one will come and pick you up from the floor. No one is going to hand you a note saying that now it's your turn. It is you who surrenders. You are the one who plants the flag. It's you who raises your voice even though you're shaking. And it doesn't matter if it seems small now. It doesn't matter if no one is watching. What matters is that you see it. May you recognize. May you protect that part of you that the world tried to diminish. Today you have the choice in your hands. The invisible choice that will one day be the story you will tell. Maybe tonight will be the night you draw your own glitter boots on a random piece of paper. Maybe today is the day you decide to be what you were born to be, without apologizing, without shrinking your soul to fit into small places. Tell me here in the comments, what dream are you afraid to say out loud? What is the part of you that is still hidden, waiting for courage to appear? This space here is for those who carry this flame hidden in their chest. Write it down here. It doesn't matter if it seems small now. Every great story begins like this, in silence, in the decision that no one sees. And stay with me, because in the next few minutes, we're going to tie all of this together in a way that might change the way you see your own path. Don't leave now. There's still one last part you need to hear. Now it's your turn to put your voice in the world. Comment below, which part of you did the world try to erase, but now you choose to let it shine? Write your way. Your every word here is a spark for those who also need to believe. If this story sparked something in you, share it with anyone who needs this silent reminder. No one needs permission to be extraordinary. And if you feel like this decision has already started, subscribe to the channel now. We build this turnaround together, step by step, dream by dream. And get ready, because in the next episode you will learn the story of a boy who was cut from the school team, called Not Good Enough. He made a silent promise that day, and that promise changed not only his life but the sport forever. His name today is synonymous with greatness. I'll meet you there.